Okay, getting our paper ready for our 81 color project. So first let's practice with our ruler. This is important because a lot of kids don't know how to use a ruler. I have cut the paper, so I have a small piece that I've left at your table. This is the paper we're going to practice with. So I'm just gonna move this off to the side. Now, it doesn't matter which way you turn your paper. What I want you to practice is getting the ruler straight, holding it down, and then tracing on the ruler. So many times kids lay the ruler down, take their pencil and do this and think, it didn't work. You can't just let the ruler sit there. You have to hold it down. That is not a straight line. Also, holding it down and then your ruler is crooked, that doesn't work either. You have to make sure your ruler is straight. How do I do that? Well, I look at the edge of the paper. The edge of the paper is straight. So I'm going to make sure it's kind of lined up. Hold the ruler down with my other hand as I take my pencil and press against the ruler. You can see it's still moved a little bit, but I just wasn't holding as good. So make sure that you have your paper turned where it works for you. Now, here are a few tips of what I want you to make sure you're doing today. When you are tracing it, the space between the two lines is going to be as thick as the ruler. So what that means is you line up the line on one edge of your ruler, and then you're just going to hold it down and trace the other edge of the ruler. That is the width, the width right here. That is how far apart we want our lines, is a ruler space. So again, that's the last line. I would line up the edge of my ruler on the line I just drew, hold it down, trace on the other side. And then that is how we're going to make our lines equal, is because we're using the ruler as the measurement. Both ways. So you would do the same thing the other way. Make sure it's lined up. Again, using the edge of my paper, trace on one end, trace on the other end. Oh, make sure you're on the paper. I wasn't even on the paper then. Move it again, line up that edge with the outside edge of your ruler, hold it down. Make sure you're on the paper, trace it. So that is how we're getting our squares, and they will all be the same distance. They're equal. So we're going to be practicing on our paper because we don't want to mess up on our other paper. The other thing I want you to be aware is, I know I've drawn these lines pretty dark so you can see. As we're drawing our lines on our paper, I don't want to do them too dark because I want to erase them. So I want to use a very light pencil. I want to be able to see them, but I also want to be able to erase them without them leaving a big mess. Excuse me. So you can see I'm just holding it down just like I showed you. And I'm using a light pencil. I'm not pushing hard at all to make the lines. So I'm going to give you a few minutes. Practice lining the ruler up. Practice holding it down. Practice tracing on both edges. Moving it. Lining it up. Tracing on the outer edge. Turning it the other direction. And try to get these squares that you see I've checked off there. That's what I want you to practice first, and using a light line, and then even seeing once you erase. It's not a very good eraser. We're going to get a big eraser. As I erase them, see which ones I can still see. So you can see these disappeared easier than the ones I drew darker. So that's what you're going to do for a few minutes. Just practice using the ruler, the pencil, and using it correctly. This will be trash when we're done with it. Now that we've practiced, this is what you're going to do. You have your square paper, so it doesn't matter which way you turn it. A square is a square is a square. Don't forget, take your pencil. Yes, go ahead and write your name on one side because it won't be able to flip over. Then flip it over. Then you're going to take your tape. Now, this is just regular masking tape. You do not need scissors. Masking tape is rippable. I'm doing this on my little table. You will have a piece of cardboard or something to tape it to. So I want to pull a piece and I want it to be a little bit longer than my paper. Still keeping it on the roll, I'm going to lay down. I should be able to see the paper. Half of the tape is on the paper. Half of it is on the little cardboard. Press it, hold it down, and then I'm going to rip, which means I'm holding it with my finger and pulling it towards me. And we're going to do this for all 4 of your edges. Yes, the edges are going to overlap. Again, keep it on the roll. Pull it longer than your paper. Half on my paper, half on my board. Push it down. When I come to the end where the roll is, push it, hold it with my finger, and then I have my finger and my thumb are holding the tape, and I'm going to pull it towards me as I'm holding that down. Again, oops. Pull it. Half on paper, half on board. Push it down. Again, holding my finger here. My finger and my thumb are holding the tape. It's going to help us as we paint. That's why we're keeping it on the board today. So once you draw your lines, the paper stays on the board. When we paint, the paper stays on the board. When it dries, the paper stays on the board. We are not removing the tape until everything is erased and it is completely done. Okay, now you're going to need your ruler and your pencil. The edge of the ruler is going to line up with the edge of this tape. So I'm going to line up the edge of the tape with my edge of my ruler, hold it down, a light pencil, and you may not be able to see what I'm doing, go from tape to tape. It's okay if you draw on the tape. Move my ruler where that line is drawn. That's where I'm lining up my ruler. Hold it down, light pencil. And I'm going to continue that all the way till I hit this side of my tape. And it should line up. Mine's a little bit bigger where the last spot should have your ruler against the last line and then the ruler touching the tape. As you can see, my tape's a little off. I'm not going to draw a line. That last section just being maybe a little off. Now we've got vertical lines. Now we're going to go horizontally. Same thing. It doesn't matter if you start top to bottom. Line the edge of the ruler with the edge of the tape on the inside. Hold it down. A light line. And then you're just moving up or down depending on which way you started. And again, the last one should be the last edge. But again, it's a little bit bigger. I'm not going to worry about that. You should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 columns. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 rows. That's what makes it 81. 9 times 9 is 81, leaving you 81 squares for us to paint in. So again, once we've drawn our lines, make sure you know where to put the pencil, make sure you know where to put the ruler and the tape. It's going to stay on your board today. You also, because our name was on the back of the paper, you're probably going to have to take a marker and write your name on the tape, not on the paper like that, on the tape, because obviously we can't see our names. So make sure we don't forget to add our name somewhere on our tape so we can see it since our name is on the back. Next step will be adding our paint colors into the 81 squares. Okay, now that I have all of my squares drawn and I have my tape on there, again, the reason we're taping it is to keep the paper still, and it's going to give us some clean lines. Now, I hope you drew your lines as light as possible. You may see mine a little bit darker just so you can see them on the video. You're going to have a small round brush. You have your water, your paper towel, and then you're going to have 2 plates. You have black and white to shade the colors and to lighten the colors. I can't think of the word all of a sudden. Then you have your 3 primary colors. Now you're probably going to have more plates on hand as you are mixing because you have some spots to mix in between. Obviously I can make orange here, green here, and purple here. But then as you continue to make all these different colors, you're going to have more plates to mix. Now, so I'm going to move these aside. Remember, every time you are mixing and you add new colors, you always got to wash off your brush, dry it off, make sure you have no paint on it. To use our water, please remember, I should not hear your brush in the water. That's either, you don't, I can hear it. I do not hear it. I can hear it. I do not hear it. So please remind yourself when you are cleaning your brush, I should not hear you. I should not even know you're cleaning your brush. You should be so quiet. Okay, so what I'm going to start with, again, these are your primary colors. And you don't have to do this so much in order. I would try to do the top half and then the bottom half. I wouldn't just be jumping everywhere. Because the thing is, this is still going to be a piece of art. I just want it to look like we've just made a bunch of different colors. So I'm going to go ahead and start off with my lightest. And it doesn't have to be painted in the full square. And then I'm going to go ahead and pull it over to make a little orange. And again, it doesn't have to be a perfect shade of orange. You can make multiple shades. So then I can even take that, add a little white to it, and make another shade of orange. So since I've done that, I'm going to go ahead and wash it off before I move on, because if I add any more to that, I'm probably going to muddy up the colors. And muddy up means if I was going to start mixing more colors. So then I'm going to go ahead and take my red. And remember, the darker colors you don't need as much. And then again, just like I did before, take a little white. I could even take a little black. Oh, just a little black. Okay, again, I've done enough. I'm going to go ahead and clean it off before I move to making more. Let's see. And these are your own colors. So if you muddy up your own colors, that's on you. Could even add more blue to it to make it a more blue-green. And then again, add a little white to make it a different shade. So as you can see, this is what you're going to be doing, filling in all the squares. Again, you know the knowledge of your primary, red, yellow, blue, your secondary, orange, purple, green, and then your tertiary, which is your blue-green, which we just did. And then now I'm going to add a little yellow to it to make it more of a yellow-green. And then again, same thing, red, orange, yellow, orange, blue, purple, red, purple, and then just keep adding white. So I can even add white to that to make it a lighter shade. And if you end up finding that they look similar, don't worry about it. Just make sure that's why I'm putting them far enough apart so it doesn't look like I'm doing that on purpose. Okay, again, I'm going to wash off a brush. And you're just going to continue this process. When you are shading it, adding black, just remember it doesn't take much black. You can see I didn't clean my brush off to and see that would be mud. I took the yellow orange or the orange and I added a blue on top. That's technically not so much of what we want to do at first. Now it still turns out to be a different shade. But again, that's where you got to be careful, as you don't want to get them too similar to each other. They start all to look like mud. That's why it's called muddying the colors up. Okay, I'm just going to continue this. Again, Just use your knowledge of your primary colors, your secondary colors, and your tertiary colors. Okay, so I somehow made all my squares colored. I know you may see more green or whatever color. I like green. But again, it looks like a piece of art. So we will erase the lines once this is dry. You're going to keep it taped onto the cardboard, and it's going to go to the drying rack. So that way, once we dry it, then we can erase it without the paper moving around, then remove the tape. Sometimes the tape rips the paper. I hope it doesn't. Now, please remind yourself these 2 plates, or however many plates you have, even if there's a lot of paint left, please don't play with the paint. These are going straight to the trash. When you throw them away, flip them over so the paint is facing down so it doesn't make a mess. Along with your paper towel, please make sure that your cup, you dump the dirty water in the sink. Make sure the paintbrush goes in the paintbrush bucket. Don't dump the dirty water in the paintbrush bucket. So make sure you do that. Leave your cup on the side of the sink, not in the sink. And then again, this paper will go to the drying rack, and keep it on the cardboard. Don't remove it. It's going to dry just like it is taped on the cardboard.